Ladies and gentlemen, we will be starting this morning's keynotes presentation shortly. We kindly ask that you find your seats at this time. And if you have not already done so, I encourage you to download the AFCEA TechNet Indo-Pacific 2024 app from your Google or Apple stores.
That should be fine. Yeah. No, I just want to make sure that I could read. Yeah. I did a presentation once, and I had what's called speaking for the 4-star, and so I was using the speech that was approved very, and the font format I was in had no lighting. Only the light from this was awful. Yeah. We'll see. Be good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and aloha. Welcome to the day 2 of the 39th AFCEA Hawaii and International TechNet Indo-Pacific Conference titled Free, Open, Secure. I am Captain Tracy Tran of the U.S. Army Military Intelligence, and it's my pleasure to be your MC for today's events. Okay, thank you. As a courtesy to our opening ceremony, guests and fellows professionals, we respectfully ask that you silence all your personal communications devices at this time. I would now like to welcome up to the stage Chaplain Pon Chontapon from the U.S. Coast Guard 14th District, who will give our opening prayer.
Let us pray. O Almighty God, as we continue our TechNet Indo-Pacific Conference on day 2 of its 39th year, we thank you for your creation in the Indo-Pacific region, its peoples, its oceans, lands, and the skies above. We thank you for placing us here to live and work in it, and most importantly, to be good stewards of your creation in this part of the world. As we strive to do our very best to protect our people, our national interests, and be good stewards of your creation, we are mindful of the threats and challenges upon us in this region and beyond. So, Guide us to address and solve regional challenges collaboratively to ensure that free, open, secure data and information flow internally and with regional partners and allies. Lead us to find suitable solutions and services we need to meet our military and government requirements in protecting our people and preserving your blessings for our people and for generations to come. Open our hearts and minds to identify effective resources and bless us with effective means and ways to carry out our duties. For you are the most powerful God, who is everywhere, who knows all things, sees all things, and overcomes all things. You have overcome the world, Lord God. And we trust that you would preserve us and make us victorious in this great power competition and be blessings to others. Help us to overcome our challenges on land, at sea, and in the sky above this region with your blessings and source of help. Bless our speakers at this conference, our today's keynote speakers, and this morning's keynote speaker, Rear Admiral Regan, as he presents his insights at this conference today. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain, for those words of inspirations. I would now like to ask David McIntyre, Vice President, Program Management of Peloton, to come up to the stage.
Good morning. Well, welcome to this morning's keynote featuring Rear Admiral Regan of the U.S. Coast Guard at TechNet Indo-Pacific 2024. I'm David McIntyre. I'm the General Manager and Vice President of Defense Mission Systems at Peloton, and we're proud to be a supporting partner of TechNet Indo-Pacific. Peloton is a next-generation national security company dedicated to protecting freedom globally by supporting missions of consequence, particularly those affecting the Indo-Pacific. As a mission capability integrator, we help our government customers solve their toughest challenges by bridging the gap between today's reality and the future. We're particularly pleased to welcome you all to this session with Admiral Regan because of the critical role the Coast Guard plays thwarting China's malign behavior and building partner capacity throughout the region. Thank you all and enjoy the keynote this morning.
Thank you, David. It is now my privilege and honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Rear Admiral Sean Regan of the 14th U.S. Coast Guard District. As a distinguished 1992 graduate of the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, he assumed command of the United States Coast Guard District 14 in June 2024. This pivotal role has made him responsible for all U.S. Coast Guard operations across the Central and Western Pacific, as well as the Oceania regions, ensuring the security and stability of the Pacific Maritime Domain. His prior flag assignments include Deputy Director of Operations at United States Northern Command, while holding concurrent assignments as the Director of Training, Exercise, and Wargaming for the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, and U.S. NORTHCOM, where he was instrumental in enhancing joint operational readiness and interagency collaboration. Please join me in a warm welcome for Rear Admiral Sean Regan, Commander, U.S. Coast Guard, 14th District. If you have any questions for the Admiral, please text them to the email address located on the screens.
Morning, everybody. Hopefully we get a slide deck coming up here. Well, as the slide deck comes up, good morning, everybody, and thanks for this great honor. First of all, thanks to the chaps for the great prayer. Something we know it's important to me as a human, but also very important to the Pacific Island partners and the partners in the region here. And it's something our adversaries definitely cannot replicate. David, thank you for saying hello, and Captain, thank you for the kind introductions. Thanks to AFCEA for inviting me to speak at this fantastic conference. And the theme of free, open, and secure are my goals as well, as the Coast Guard strives to be a trusted partner to those people in Oceania and elsewhere. Do we have the slide deck up, please?
Sir, we are searching for it back here. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. We are looking for it right now.
Oh, well, I will try. You'll have to imagine. EB, do you have anything you can help them with, or? So broadly, I'll try to do it. I'll try to do this without the slides. And if I go to interpretive dance, you know I've gone way off of base here. So my objective today is to remind you of the Coast Guard's role in supporting our broad and global national objectives, with a special emphasis on the Indo-Pacific and Oceania regions. When I speak to an audience, I never presume that everybody, let alone anybody, knows about their Coast Guard, though I argue they should, and then what the Coast Guard is accomplishing. So let me tell you a little bit about my service and give you some brief examples of our worldwide operations. So it's been said that the Coast Guard is a bridge between the State Department's diplomacy and the Department of Defense's lethality. But make no mistake, the Coast Guard is a proud member of the Joint Force and foremost a Title X military service. The Coast Guard has a long and storied history of serving combat in every war except the Revolution. And our wartime history in the Pacific is something we're very, very proud of. Notably, and to the chagrin of my Navy partners in the room, we are the continuous longest-serving naval service in the nation. We are unique in the United States entire government, as in most nations, as we are both a humanitarian service, a law enforcement agency, a regulatory and operational agency, an armed force, and a federal agency, and a domestic and international entity, all at the same time. But what we offer is this. As DoD provides consequences for negative behaviors amongst our adversaries, the Coast Guard reinforces the positive behaviors that we seek for all to emulate. That is, the adherence to the rules-based international order in the maritime and cyber domains that provide all nations an opportunity to pursue security and prosperity as they are able. In other words, a free and open Indo-Pacific is a values-based alternative to our adversaries' coercive and bullying behaviors. I use the rubric ACCP, Authorities, Capabilities, Capacities, to describe the Coast Guard. And as you think through that, we have unique authorities, we have specialized capabilities. Although we have a limited capacity, we have fantastic partnerships. In the end, the Coast Guard provides maritime safety, maritime security, and maritime stewardship to the maritime domain. Fundamentally, we protect those on the sea, we protect against threats emanating from the sea, and we protect the sea itself. The Coast Guard is a conglomeration of a whole bunch of different organizations over the years. We're comprised of a collective of the Revenue Cutter Service, the Lighthouse Service, the Steamboat Inspection Service, the Bureau of Navigation, and the Life Saving Service. At the end of that mashing of all these different needs, let's go to the next slide. Next slide. At the end of these mashing of different needs, the Coast Guard ended up with 11 statutory missions, as you see here. As examples of some of those missions that are ongoing today, under the title Counter Drugs, and as we gather today, Coast Guard cutters are sailing with Royal Canadian Navy in the Eastern Pacific off of Mexico, Central and South America, to interdict and seize shipments of illicit drugs where they are transported in bulk. Vessel targets are provided by JIDF South under Southcom in a great example of a whole-of-government approach that involves both U.S. and international community partners. A similar effort happens out here, right with JIDF West, right here in Honolulu. The value is not that we collectively seize tons of cocaine each year, but that we disrupt and degrade transnational criminal organizations that thrive in this trade that has impacts across the Pacific Rim. Criminal organizations corrupt governments and erode the rule of law that creates instability in the countries where they thrive. They drive mass migration and they create misery. Fighting them creates a network of like-minded nations with bilateral agreements that strengthen international norms and values and protect sovereignty. Under the heading High Latitudes, the Coast Guard Polar Star breaks ice into McMurdo Station and projects U.S. presence and influence deep into the high latitudes. The cutter Healy, another icebreaker, transits through the Bering Strait up the Chukchi Sea, patrolling a portion of the 1,700-mile maritime boundary that is between the United States and Russia. It transits through a traffic separation scheme through the Bering Strait approved by the International Maritime Organization and engages in protocols with the Russian border guards that assure safe and predictable transits through an increasingly busy, if not remote, waterway. Under the title Defense Operations, the Coast Guard has 6 150-foot fast response cutters in Bahrain in harm's way, conducting operations to disrupt weapons and drugs in the Middle East. If you would see an intercepted weapons case in the region on the news, it is likely to come from a Coast Guard cutter or deployable maritime security response team, some of our high-end operators supporting DoD in the region. At home on the continental United States, and under the titles of Contingency and Disaster Response, and Search and Rescue, and Waterways Management, and Maritime Environmental Protection, just to name a few, Coast Guard men and women are at the forefront of resilience and disaster response. We still have coasties out of their homes right now due to the recent hurricanes in the southeast. Though tragic, it is a bit normal for the Coast Guard, as our forces are positioned where they are needed. Proudly, the men and women of the Coast Guard put aside their own needs to save others when crisis strikes. Slide, please. The Coast Guard is an armed force and law enforcement agency at all times. We hold Title 10 Armed Force authorities under our home and DHS, we operate leveraging Title 14 authorities. I won't speak to the Title 50 authorities on the screen, but we are also a member of the intelligence community. As this chart displays, the Coast Guard is under the Department of Homeland Security, and we are found on the same level as the other services. But the Coast Guard is split into 2 areas, which would be our COCOM equivalents. Each area is split into districts led by 2 stars, and then into subordinate elements led by leaders from 06 level, which are captains, down to E7s, which are chief petty officers. Slide, please. This slide shows how the Pacific area is split into 4 different districts. There are 5 districts in the Atlantic area. Slide, please. Now, speaking more directly to my command, District 14, we have valuable and unique assets, the most important which is our people. I mark people first because I truly believe a single well-placed Coast Guard member can change our history in the most positive way. For example, just this year in Tonga, we sent the Coast Guard cutter Harriet Lane, seen on the bottom right behind those 2 sailors, to attend the King of Tonga's birthday celebration while on a regional patrol supporting partner nations. Harriet Lane hosted the Royal Princess of Tonga on deck for an event. Supposedly supposed to be an hour-and-a-half event, but it went much longer. The enthusiastic, friendly, and strategically impactful crew were excellent hosts and strengthened that partnership. This was immediately realized the next day when my direct representative, Captain Tom D'Arcy, was asked to sit next to the Queen during the celebratory dinner. I'll tell you, the PRC took note of that, and a single Coast Guard's made our partnership strong. In other cases, the coasties in the upper left of the slide were in the Republic of Marshall Islands, working with them to build contingency plans. They were so impactful that the president of RMI added the U.S. Coast Guard as a strategic success to her 200-day post-inauguration report to her people. I offer to you that this is remarkable, and I wish I had more time to share with you the stories of our mobile teams, cutter crews, air crews, deployable forces, and prevention specialists who are all over the region being great examples of the United States. We bring to willing partners things our adversaries cannot replace: the Coast Guard band, chaplains, and fantastic and friendly Coast Guard professionals. In their actions and activities, Coasties are achieving my objective of ensuring the Coast Guard is a trusted partner in Oceania. Slide. This is a laydown of the forces that I leverage. Some are under my direct control, which are the major items in the middle, and others are provided by my boss in Pacific area in Alameda. In all, we leverage these specialized capabilities, even though we're very bit small in capacity as compared to DoD, but we leverage them to great effect. For example, in Guam, we stood up Coast Guard Forces Micronesia and stationed 3 fast response cutters there. These cutters give the Coast Guard highly capable assets operating out of Guam. And with these cutters' range and suite of capabilities, the Coast Guard is able to reach areas of the Central and South Pacific and bring a law enforcement presence to the region. We are committed as a Coast Guard to a greater presence in the Pacific. Please note the yellow boxes. The Coast Guard is invested and has plans to deliver additional 154-foot response cutters and another 270-foot medium endurance Oceania Indo-Pacific support cutter in the coming years. Slide. Notably, I want to ensure that we are all aware of the expanse of this region and the D14 area responsibility. So District 14 has the largest and most remote search and rescue region in the United States. As you can see, it's actually bigger in size than the entire country. That means that I am responsible for, and my Coasties is responsible for, search and rescue throughout that red box. Though it's hard for old folks like me to see, on the slide are about a small sample of the cases we have worked in the recent past. You can note that many are literally a continent away. Let me tell you a story of one case, which you might have seen in the national press recently, but highlights our capability and partnerships. Recall when Hurricane Hone was heading towards Hawaii this summer. If you might have recalled, there was also a storm right behind it. Now, between these storms, and 900 miles away from Oahu, was a sailing vessel with a deceased master, a woman, and a 7-year-old child on board. Coast Guard Air Station Barbers Point's crews risked their own well-being to fly into that weather, establish contact, and assure the woman that help was coming. The U.S. Coast Guard Joint Rescue Coordination Center here in Hawaii vectored in an AMVER vessel. AMVER vessels are civilian merchant ships who voluntarily register to help other vessels in distress if they can. And an AMVER vessel went to meet the sailing ship. However, the weather was too rough to get the woman and child on board. The United States Navy 3rd Fleet diverted a ship over 300 miles into the weather to effect the rescue. Coast Guard aircraft remained overhead, and our partners' ships via AMVER and the U.S. Navy resulted in 2 lives saved. That means, to me, 2 families not mourning in an innumerous number of friends and others who will have these 2 humans back. Sadly, the master was already deceased when we got the call. Slide, please. Here in Oceania, the Coast Guard cutters and deployable support forces are working with partner nations to help them counter illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, narcotics trafficking, human smuggling, piracy, cyber protection, and encroachment on maritime boundaries that threaten our food sources, economies, and sovereignty. We conduct protection of our domestically, we conduct protection of our fisheries leveraging our own laws and regulations. However, we support other partners using bilateral and multilateral agreements, joint operations, and a collaborative commitment to shared values that are most effective tools to combating coercive and domineering behavior at sea. We conduct support through regional organizations such as the Western Central Pacific Fisheries Commission and the Pacific Island Forum working groups. Slide. We have very extensive and very, very valuable partnerships and bilateral agreements that allow the Coast Guard to support partners in their needs. And as you can see, we seek to sustain and operate within the rules-based order, within good governance, or like our theme today, free, open, and secure. The Coast Guard's value is underpinned by the White House Indo-Pacific strategy that tasks us with expanding Coast Guard presence and cooperation in Southeast and South Asia and the Pacific Islands, with a focus on advising, partnering, deployments, and capacity building. Slide, please. Our flagship program is called Operation Blue Pacific. It's an annual operation focused on meeting partners where they're at, with what they want, when they need it, in a manner they can absorb it. This could be mutual subject matter expert exchanges, port calls, community events, providing them the support so that they can know what's going on in their seas, and leveraging our capabilities to help them enforce their laws. We are active and ready to respond to humanitarian assistance and disaster relief when called. My end state, though arguably aspirational, is to assist our Pacific Island partners understand what is happening in their waters so that they have the laws and regulations to protect those waters and have the capacity and capability to patrol and enforce their waters organically. Slide, please. So to realize our value in the Indo-Pacific and elsewhere, we must integrate technologies at speed that enable our mission execution, together with our mission support that enables our readiness. Data, AI, remote tech, space, and cyber are increasingly part of this. We also need to develop a workforce in order to effectively employ it. So data is a powerful asset to providing a competitive edge. The Coast Guard created a data readiness task force in 2020 and completed its data strategy in 2021 to leverage the full potential of data to make decisions at all levels, fully informed by authoritative, reliable, secure, and relevant data. To codify this, the Coast Guard established an Office of Data and Analytics, which is creating consistent standards for data management so it can be searched, shared, and analyzed more easily, no matter what system it is stored in. Rules are now developed to gather data within a more efficient environment that safeguards it. This will enable mission leaders to ask specific questions and get the answers they need quickly and in real time, instead of waiting for intermittent or the end-of-year reports to get the products they need. Further, modern computing will be informed by a big data platform, integrating data across the Coast Guard enterprise from systems our members use daily, not only to reduce the burden of manual data entry by field personnel, but to empower the workforce to make data-driven decisions that push finite resources across the highest threats to our maritime environment and our maritime security. This is very much a work in progress, but it is something we have to do to maintain organizational readiness, informing how we manage our people and assets, to advance maritime domain awareness, apply advanced analytics to provide operational commanders comprehensive insights into their areas of responsibility, and ultimately to mission execution. The Coast Guard is also enhancing our capabilities in the cyber domain. In addition to protecting our own networks on the DODN, the Coast Guard has a unique role in that we are the lead federal agency for safeguarding the Maritime Transportation System, or MTS, against cyber threats. As such, we are strengthening our core capabilities and applying our proven prevention and response frameworks to manage cyber risks and prevent disruption of the $5.4 trillion annual economic impact that is facilitated by the MTS. Coast Guard efforts to safeguard the maritime sector include several lines of effort. These include mandating integration of cyber risk management across the maritime sector, incorporation of cyber drills and exercises within existing preparedness regimes, expedited sharing of cyber threat intelligence and the best practices domestically and abroad, and continuous engagement with government and industry partners to ensure a coordinated response to cyber incidents. It goes without saying that cyber risk management is a team sport. Partnership with harbor users, area maritime security committees, government, and other stakeholders is at the heart of our efforts. Make no mistake, the correct response to a cyber disruption is risk-based, technically sound, and collective. We are doing this by developing a cyber workforce capable of meeting our mission challenges. We created an entire cyber mission specialist rating in the Coast Guard and hired 52 specialists at all of our sectors, districts, and areas in order to provide cyber expertise at the local and field level, specifically on cybersecurity and cyber risk management, with a particular focus on the cyber's impacts to marine safety and the prevention operations ashore mission. Further, we created several Coast Guard cyber protection teams, which is our Coast Guard deployable unit responsible for offering cybersecurity capabilities to the MTS. CPTs enhance the resiliency of the MTS critical infrastructure against cyber disruption through consistent proactive engagements with the public and industry organizations. We are also a proud member of the Joint Force at U.S. Cyber Command, providing top-notch trained personnel to provide maritime security expertise to the most important mission of that organization. In accordance with the Tri-Service Maritime Strategy, by synchronizing the capabilities, capacities, roles, investments, and authorities of the naval services, we expand our influence across the competitive continuum in all domains, from the seafloor to space, across the world's oceans, littorals, and coastal areas ashore, in the cyber domain, information domain, and electromagnetic spectrum. The Coast Guard has a keen need for constant communications. We have installed Starlink on our cutters to both enhance data sharing and info flow, but also to enhance sea duty attractiveness with our generation of Coast Guard members who are much more attuned to using tech than I will ever be, and they will ensure they have access to leverage such tech. We have a network of Rescue 21 systems that are key to ensuring that we hear search and rescue calls for help, but they also support enhanced maritime domain awareness. This infrastructure is aging, and the Coast Guard continues to look for improved technology and, importantly, tech that can work during and after man-made or natural disasters. MDA is critical to the Coast Guard's missions of ensuring the safety, security, and efficiency of the nation's maritime activities and to protecting our fragile maritime environment. The key ingredient to maritime governance regime is maritime domain awareness, through which we maintain an understanding of maritime space with all of its natural and man-made complexities. MDA activities can be easily characterized as enabling us to understand and then share information. I offer the Coast Guard has been a leader in advocating for and coordinating efforts amongst a myriad maritime stakeholders to improve MDA. And I stress the word coordinating, because there's no single solution, nor can MDA be the effort of a single agency or even a single government. Rather, improved awareness must be developed across the broad maritime community with a wide range of participants. For example, the Navy has been fundamental in developing and employing Sea Vision to partner nations in the Indo-Pacific region, which has enabled them to significantly improve their MDA and has increased partnerships in information sharing. Sea Vision, as you may know, is a web-based maritime situational awareness tool which allows users to view and share a broad range of maritime information in order to improve domain awareness, increase maritime security, and build partnerships. Now, from an operational perspective, the Coast Guard is working to improve our MDA technology that reduces uncertainty and facilitates immediate, tactically relevant decisions. We envision an accessible common display that is an analysis system as a C2 node that deployed units. Further, it is important that the system integrate live feeds resulting from active sensors and intelligence and surveillance and reconnaissance activities of the Coast Guard, partner agencies, and the partner nations. Needed are also features that integrate MDA pictures from other systems and complementing sources into open sources. Because of the increased frequency of combined joint and interagency operations, we are exploring systems with the technical ability and capacity to ingest partners' data and share their systems, as well as a tailorable and legal policy information sharing, as well as being tailorable to legal and policy information sharing restrictions and limitations. And lastly, on this slide, artificial intelligence presents an opportunity and indeed the ability to transform Coast Guard operations. Existing Coast Guard initiatives show promise, but it requires an enterprise-wide commitment to working with industry, academia, and other partners to pursue new methods of technology to deliver durable mission benefits. For example, the Coast Guard created the Blue Technology Center of Expertise in La Jolla, California, to educate industry, academic, and government partners about the Coast Guard missions and technology requirements, and to facilitate integration of state-of-the-market tools and capabilities to support of the service's operational mission needs. Further, the Coast Guard's Research and Development Center in New London, Connecticut, is the Coast Guard's primary facility performing research, development, and test and evaluation in support of the service's major missions, most often alongside industry. We are piloting several capabilities, such as the robotics process automation and the maritime object detection program. The mission impacts these capabilities provide promise to be game-changing, not just by creating new operational capability, but they're helping us learn the entire foundation of AI. Early lessons from the Coast Guard AI pilots highlight a lack of an adequate IT infrastructure. Getting data from sensors to our aircraft and cutters is a time-consuming manual process right now. Further, AI is heavily reliant on cloud capabilities, and we are currently learning all that is required to transition into a fully serviced cloud. Each of these lessons has driven various actions and resource proposals which, if resourced, should improve the Coast Guard's readiness for more advanced AI capabilities. AI and machine learning need to be leveraged to simplify complex tasks, reduce response times, minimize training requirements, and collect metrics. Moving forward, the Coast Guard is focused on assessing and identifying existing systems and operational units that can benefit from human-machine teaming enhancement. Some examples include the areas of automated search and rescue queuing, maritime object detection, optimizing Coast Guard airborne data sensor feeds, streamlining command and control workflows, automated iceberg detection, and so on. To accomplish this, the Coast Guard is engaged with organizations such as the DoD Joint Artificial Intelligence Center to integrate our needs with those of the larger U.S. interagency community. In conclusion, in keeping with the purpose of this conference, we know we cannot do these things without the collaboration of the patriots in the private sector. We need to accelerate how we bring new technologies and capabilities online faster. We need to integrate them at speed in order to remain competitive against our adversaries, advance our national security interests, and best serve the American public. As I conclude, a few things. Thanks first to ASCA for your continued support of military scholarships to military families. It's very, very valuable and very at the heart of supporting our warfighters. Second, I want to thank you again for the honor and opportunity to share with you your United States Coast Guard. And third, I want to end with the very best part of your Coast Guard is our heroic coasties. I'd like to share this short video on the heroism of Coast Guard members in Maui during the tragic fires last year. These young men and women risked their lives to serve their fellow citizens. They are supported by administrative, command and control, logistics, and many other professionals, active duty, reserve, auxiliary, and civilian partners. They are just one sample of the hundreds of brave service members I am honored to serve with and who selflessly serve you. And they are supported by the unpaid patriots of our nation, their families, who hope they come home safely from the missions every day. If we can maybe show that video.
Sector Honolulu, can I help you?
We're surrounded by fire on both ends. We can't get out.
How many people are with you?
There's got to be at least 50 people. And I would say at least.
People that we need on the 45.
People are scared. People are really scared.
I'm going to get DM1 on the line.
The night of the fire, I was the acting officer in charge. The Sector Command Center requested that they make an attempt to go into Lahaina Harbor. I remember that being just an incredibly eerie radio transmission to hear.
Hey, just let them know we got 3 birds in the air. We got our Coast Guard one, and we got 2 Navy helicopters in Lahaina.
I don't think we had any concept of how bad it was until we got there.
Extreme turbulence.
Extreme turbulence.
Extending 2 miles offshore.
Extending 2 miles offshore. That's from our helo crew.
I think we're going to save the day, but we couldn't even come below 500 feet without concern of descending into the water.
As we entered the harbor, it was hard to see through the smoke. The smoke would burn your eyes. It was just so hot. You could feel the heat from the fires. We could hear explosions, and we could hear the folks on the break wall yelling to us.
So they proceeded inbound, and they would have small gaps in smoke where they would be able to see people on the jetty and see other people in distress.
Once we actually saw, people in distress, like turning around wasn't an option anymore.
Our Maui team's on scene. What's on scene? They're trying to get to these people. The people would have to transit at least 200 yards from our boat because of the reef.
In this scenario, the playbook was thrown out. So we had to make some decisions that were slightly outside of policy, and we had to do that in order to be productive and effective and do the right thing for the community.
I can see you guys.
We can't get our boat close enough to you guys, so more than likely you guys are going to have to enter the water with the Coast Guard rescue swimmer, okay?
Everybody start heading that way.
Yes.
Coast Guard's picking us up. Hey, everybody turn your lights on. The Coast Guard's looking for us. We're coming in.
I've never been more proud of a group of men and women that I've ever worked with or ever been a part of in my entire life. And just the admiration I have for them, the heroism that they displayed, just full of pride for what this unit and the members of those boat crews did.
So thank you again for your support. Thank you so much for your support of your Coast Guard. That Chief Petty Officer you saw on that, at the time of this is the most remarkable part about the Coast Guard, is at the time of that case, he was the Executive Petty Officer, the number 2 of that station. The Petty Officer in charge, the Chief in charge was off island. And he, under the authority that he's given and the way we make our Coast Guardsmen and women, on his own, conducted that rescue, led men and women into that. The 8 men and women who did the case, each of them got the Coast Guard Medal, which is the highest non-combat award that we are able to give for their safety. Thank you again for letting me be here. Thank you for your support of the United States Coast Guard, and have a great conference. Thank you.
Wow, what a great mission brief and understanding of what the Coast Guard brings to the table. Admiral Regan, on behalf of AFCEA International and AFCEA Hawaii chapter, we want to thank you for taking time to be with us today. Thank you for reminding us and educating us on the 12 Coast Guard statutory missions, the Title 10, 14, and 15 authorities. We recognize the Coast Guard's increasingly data-focused mission as they integrate communications, cyber, data, and AI at warp speed. That Maui fire video certainly gave us a true appreciation of the professionalism and dedication to the mission that the Coast Guard, and specifically District 14, has. We truly appreciate the flawless execution of the strategically based and logistically challenged mission that you have. As a thank you for speakers this week, on behalf of AFCEA, we're going to make a donation to the Friends of Windward Wounded Warriors. And in addition, we're going to be presenting you with this highly coveted challenge coin, which highlights the 39th TechNet Indo-Pacific event.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to also thank Peraton for sponsoring this morning's session. And now that I ask that you please pay attention to our MC, Captain Trissy Tran, as she provides an additional update on the sessions and events that we don't want to miss today. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Rear Admiral Regan, for that informative and inspirational brief right there. It's that very near and dear to our hearts video that we just saw. I do have a few admin remarks to put out. If you have not done so, please download the AFCEA app. It will provide you with the most updated information on the conference events and time changes or keynote speaker changes as well. If you're interested in the new and cutting-edge technologies that's being demonstrated right now, please visit the STEM Innovation Showcase located on the 3rd floor, room 307AB. Also, our Emerging Leaders panel for next generation secure communications for our nation's defense is being presented in room 310. Ticketed lunch will be served on the main floor at 11:45, and it will be followed by our next keynote presentation, Lieutenant General Laura Landerman, the Deputy Commander of Pacific Air Forces. And for today, thank you, Tri-Citizens, for providing the parking validation. So please stop by the booth 1534 for parking validations. So this concludes this portion of our event today. I hope to see you at the 1300 for our next keynote speakers.